I often have people ask me how I mark my trophies, my medals, my other awards that I get at races, to keep track of what I did, what my place was, the date, the time, the location, and so forth. I got three examples I'm going to show you today. Um, First one I'm going to start with is a trophy that I got from the Firecracker Frolic 5K in 2020. Um, so I'll put stuff on the bottom of the award and marker. Uh, I'll put the full date. What I mean by full date is 7/1 of 20. So July 1st of 2020. I was first overall. My time was 17 minutes 40 seconds, and this was New Germany, PA. As you see here, it just says Firecracker Frolic on the front, 5K on the front. So there's really not much information to keep track of just from looking at the trophy itself. So that's why I add the time, my place, the location, and the actual date. It's just putting that full date, like 7/1 of 20. It's just a little bit more specific than 2020 because hey, it might have been August, it might have been January, might have been October. You just never really know. Even though Firecracker Frolic is generally going to be in like a July month. Um, that way you just have that little bit of a reference down the road or years down the road, what actually happened or where you placed at for that race. It's just a little bit of a record keeping. So that way maybe somebody comes over to your house, they sees the trophy, and they're like, oh, what did you do at that race that year? Well, you don't remember off the top of your head, so then you just lift the trophy up, look at the bottom, and you have that information for you. It, continues the conversation and maybe gets that person to ask a couple more questions. Or if you forget what you did, all you have to do is go up to it, be like, oh, there's the information. Then you maybe you did the race again the following year, so now you can actually go back, look real quick for reference purposes, and be like, oh, my time was better, my time was worse. Was it held the same week? Little things like that is why I always mark my medals and trophies and such. Now this, I actually got a couple weeks ago from the Cupid's Chase. It's a pretty nice little medal. But as you see, it just says, Cupid's Chase, National 5K Series, because they have a bunch of different races across the United States during the weekend, that weekend. So there's really no specific information on the front of that race. So again, with marker, I'll put first overall, my time was 17:44. The date was 2/11 of 23, and this was Latrobe. Again, since this was like a national race series, I put that Latrobe down, so that way, me obviously, I'm gonna remember which one I did. Like I have one. There's one in Latrobe, Butler, Pittsburgh. So there's like three within like an hour and a half of me. So this just in case I went to one of the other ones like a year later or a year before. I actually went this year to Latrobe's instead of one of the other ones. Because sometimes maybe you do a race like a big race series like that. It might not be in the same location year after year, so the course might change. Or since it's a national race series, you might patronize one of the other locations. So that year, a couple years down the road, to be like, oh, that was the year I went to Latrobe. That's the reason for that information on that one. Normally, you don't necessarily need that because sometimes the information's on the medal or trophy, sometimes it's not. Now this thing, I got this at Buck Ridge Burn last year. It's a really nice finisher's award, but it is sort of plain when it comes to information purposes. So I got a little label maker. Well, not a label maker, but a label. I put Buck Ridge Burn half, because they have a 5K and a half marathon. So sometimes you might want to add that information as well. If you go to a race and they offer multiple race distances, it's always nice to say, hey, I did the 5K this year, the 10K, the half, the full. That way it's another record-keeping thing that you can look at down the road and be like, hey, this year I did the 5, last year I did the 10, so that way you're not getting confused. I finished second overall last year, as you see. There was my time, an hour 39:21.74. This was a finisher's award, which I put on there. And then I put the date, 4/3/22. The reason why I use these little like white labels is because something like this, I don't want to get ruined because they obviously put a lot of work and effort into making this look nice. So since this sets on like this, you know, on a shelf or you propped up like this, so you're looking at the front. That's why I put this so I'm not ruining the back later on if, down the road if I want to take this off. It's not going to leave any residue or lasting effects on it, or it's not going to ruin it. So that's the reason why I do this. I actually do this for a lot of different little like wooden things or uh, nice awards that people hand out at races, just so I don't ruin the award itself or the medal. But for like medals, I generally, again, just use marker. Sometimes I have to use like a silver or different color besides black because of the way um, the finisher's medal shines. You know, if it's a darker medal, black might not show up a lot. And even sometimes on trophies or different awards, you know, a black marker, black Sharpie doesn't show up well, so I might have to use like a silver or, you know, some random like green or blue just to get the information on there. But again, these are 3 examples of what I do. Keep track of my awards. Sometimes I'm a little bit anal, so I like to keep my stuff in order, even if it's yearly. So as I hang stuff up, I'm like, all right, so this was like, you know, February, March, April, May, June, like in that order as I receive them or get them. Or if something happens where I have to move and throw everything in a box, it's just easier if I want to hang them back up the same way. With the information on the back, like the date and stuff like that. Maybe if it's just a plain medal, actually put the race, what it's called. It just helps you keep track and organize things down the road. I hope that helps you a little bit. It's just, again, it's nice to just be able to look back at information on those. So maybe you're just walking by your room one day, that you have your medals and stuff in. And you're like, man, I remember that race. I wonder how I did that. You know, you could just go up to it, turn it around, you see how you did. I don't know. Again, to me, it's just something I do, and I think other people like the idea when they do it as a way to keep track. Because me racing like every weekend, sometimes it's hard to remember my specific times. Other people that might only race like 3 races or a dozen races a year, it might be a little easier for them to remember their times. So it might not be as important because they can remember a lot better. But again, if you have that information, it's always at your fingertips because you might not be able to find the race results online or look up that race years down the road. So you always have that information at your fingertips when you want to see it. So I recommend it. If you have any other questions or you want other examples, let me know. But those are the 3 basics, and hope you try it out sometime.